predator becomes prey in the Florida Everglades as hundreds of hunters descend on the Sunshine State to catch and kill as many Burmese pythons as possible.
The high-tech solution, Florida is deploying robotic rabbits to help capture invasive Burmese pythons in the Everglades.
Something strange is happening in the Everglades. If you talk to people who've worked out there long enough, they'll tell you the same unsettling thing. It's quiet. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. The kind where you realize the small animals that used to dart across the roads, scream from the bushes, or raid campsites are just gone. For years, everyone blamed it on the Burmese pythons. That part is true, but the story that's unfolding out there now is a lot more complicated and way more unnerving. Before all this, the Everglades was a 1.5 million acre river of grass that quietly held South Florida together. It pumped out over $30 billion of value every year just by giving people flood protection and clean drinking water. This place once had skies so full of egrets and ibises that biologists joked it looked like the clouds were flying. Then one hurricane in 1992 and one bad trend in the pet trade lit a fuse nobody noticed until it was too late. Hurricane Andrew tore open a reptile facility near Miami. At the same time, Burmese pythons were the $10 impulse pet people bought as cute little noodles. What they didn't realize is those noodles turn into 10-foot, 50-pound predators in a few years. With no off switch, owners dumped them at the edge of the swamp, thinking they were doing the right thing. In reality, they were stalking a buffet. The official story says a few escapes and a few pet releases started it all. Plenty of scientists have whispered that the math never made sense. The invasion spread too fast, too wide. It felt more like a breeding operation got blown open during the storm. Nobody's ever proven it, but the Everglades sure looks like it. For Burmese pythons, Florida was perfect. Warm, humid, endless places to hide. And most importantly, a giant list of prey that had never evolved to recognize a 20-foot ambush predator. These snakes can hold their breath underwater for half an hour. They can sense body heat. They vanish into grass. And a single female can lay around 100 eggs. No predators, no competition, no guardrails. By 2012, the numbers coming out of field research didn't sound real. Raccoons down 99.3%, opossums down 98.9%, bobcats down nearly 90%. In the hardest hit areas, scientists were driving miles without seeing a single mammal. For a place once famous for life, it was like someone had unplugged the ecosystem. Florida panicked and created the Python Challenge, a public hunt where people showed up with snake hooks, headlamps, and nerves of steel. In 2024, they caught 195 snakes. In 2025, they hit 294. Good headlines, impressive photos, and basically zero impact. If you assume the lowest estimate of 100,000 pythons in the wild, removing a few hundred barely scratches a fraction of a percent. Professional hunters have taken more than 23,000 pythons since 2017, and even that might be under 5% of what's really out there. The more you learn about this, the more you drift into that group of people who quietly track stories like this, because you like seeing the whole picture instead of a surface-level noise. That's basically the secret handshake of Cosmos X viewers. You're in the crowd that's not just watching, but absorbing. Florida tried tech. Drones with thermal cameras. Didn't work. Everything in the Everglades radiates heat. And pythons blend into the background. Robotic rabbit bait. Didn't work. Pythons don't chase things, they wait. They tried Judas snakes. Tag a giant male, release him. Follow him to breeding females. That worked better, but it's slow, expensive, and honestly creepy. Some tagged snakes will circle the same area for weeks, as if they've learned they're being tailed. And then the story took a left turn that nobody was prepared for. Sick native snakes started showing up, struggling to breathe, losing weight. When researchers opened them up, they found the lungs clogged with tiny worms. Not a handful, sometimes hundreds. The source was a parasite from Asia called Angiostrangulus cantonensis, also known as snake lungworm. Burmese pythons brought it with them. Pythons had evolved alongside this parasite for thousands of years. They can carry it without dying. Florida's native snakes have no defenses. The infection process is simple. A python defecates, insects eat the waste. Frogs eat the insects, native snakes eat the frogs. Inside that snake, the worms migrate to the lungs, grow and multiply until the snake can barely breathe. Some were found with bleeding lesions and pneumonia. A few were found with worms coming out of their mouths. By the time scientists realized what was happening, the lungworm had already spread to at least 18 native snake species across dozens of counties. It no longer needed the pythons to survive. It had jumped. And once a parasite proves it can leap between species, you start to question everything we call unlikely. Researchers say it's unlikely to jump into mammals, fine. But they also thought it was unlikely to jump into North American snakes in the first place. Pets eat frogs. Hunters handle wild snakes. Unlikely gets a lot less comforting when the parasite you're talking about is already rewriting the rules of Florida's food chain. Oddly enough, one snake seems to shrug it off, the Florida cottonmouth. Something about them makes them resistant. Nobody knows why. Genetic immunity? Diet? Another mystery added to the pile. At this point, Florida had a python crisis, a disappearing mammal crisis, and now a parasite crisis eating its way through the survivors. And that's when the state announced a plan that looked like a joke: release more snakes. The internet roasted them. People compared it to Australia's cane toads and Hawaii's mongooses. It sounded like Florida at its most, Florida. But the truth behind it was not stupid and not random. The snake they were releasing was the eastern indigo, the largest native snake in North America, a 9-foot jet black predator that literally eats other snakes. Venom doesn't bother it. Rattlesnakes, copperheads, cottonmouths, it swallows them alive. The species once ruled the southeast, then we destroyed its habitat, longleaf pine forests and gopher tortoise burrows. 97% of that forest is gone. Tortoises were killed for food during the Great Depression, taking the indigos down with them. By 1978, the species was federally protected, wiped out from entire states. So the crazy plan was actually decades of slow, careful restoration. Conservationists bred indigos in captivity, protected tortoise burrows, restored pine forests, and finally reintroduced the snakes into protected areas in North Florida. Then in 2023, trail cameras captured something that felt unreal: untagged hatchlings, wild-born indigos, the first in almost 50 years. In the following months, they found more: a strong 6-foot male, 19 survivors from earlier releases, a growing footprint of a species coming back from the edge. And once you're the kind of person who tracks details like this, you start catching why people stick around on channels like this. You're piecing together stories most people never even hear about. That's the kind of viewer who stays ahead of the curve without even trying. Meanwhile, Mother Nature herself threw in a plot twist. In a Big Cypress National Preserve, researchers were tracking a 13-foot male python named Loki. One morning, they found him dead, stretched across the grass, head chewed off. The culprit wasn't a panther, wasn't an alligator. Trail cameras caught a bobcat, maybe 25 pounds, feeding on the python and defending the carcass. For 20 years, pythons were unstoppable. Suddenly, a native predator took one down. More reports followed, alligators ambushing smaller pythons, a Florida panther with a python kill. It hinted at something nobody expected: native predators learning, young animals watching adults, hunts turning into lessons, a slow shift in behavior, generation by generation. But none of this means the Everglades is healed. Pythons still own the southern region. The lungworm is still spreading north, and the indigo snake revival is happening miles away from the front line. But now something new is happening in the swamp. 3 forces, each with their own agenda, are moving toward each other. The pythons expanding north, the indigos expanding south, the lungworm spreading everywhere. What happens when the emperor snake meets the invader? What happens when the parasite reaches the restored populations? Are we looking at the first signs of recovery, or just the next chapter of a long ecological fight that never really ends? Drop your theory below. The smartest viewers always do.